Okay, here I am with I haven't done. This will probably be the only other one that I do, but I might update this one. This is a Ghave Guru of Spores commander deck. Ghave Ghave sweetener of spores. That's how I like my coffee. Very simple. 2 junk or Absan, however you want to call it, for 0/0 fungus shaman, legendary creature. Enters the battlefield with 5+1/+1 counters. Pay 1, remove a counter from it. You create a 1/1 green sapperling. And then you can tap 1, sacrifice a creature, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. I should say it specifies sacrifice a creature, so it doesn't always have to be a sapperling token or a token in general. And you can put it on target creatures, so it doesn't have to be Ghave here or anything else. Let me just kind of scooch this around. There we go. So next up, we have the lands, Command Tower, Sandsub Citadel, Murmuring Bosque, Vivid Meadow, Vivid Marsh, Vivid Grove, Orzhov Basilica, Golgari Rot Farm, Celestia Sanctuary, Scarred Barrens, Jungle Hallow, Blossoming Sands. And then we get into some of the fun stuff now. Grove of the Guardian. Very easy way to make a giant 8/8 with Vigilance. And then comboed with some of the creatures and spells in this deck, you can get multiple 8/8s because you do sacrifice the land. But I have things like Populate and things that do populate in here. So that's this card is almost an all-star in this deck. Grim Backwoods. This is basically one of my main draw engines in this deck. Sacrifice 2 black-green, sacrifice creature, draw a card. Windbreast Heights. Attack with 3 or more creatures, tap a plains, and play a card that I've hidden away from the top of my library. Mosswort Bridge, same thing, but except I have to control creatures with power 10 or greater. Stirring Wildwood, very simple 3/4 manland with reach. Colony Garden, brings 0/1 plant. Temple Garden, because commander and it's Temple Garden. Twilight Mire, Filterland, because it's commander. Sungrass Prairie, very nice land. And then 4 plains right here. 2 swamps. And 4 forests. Next up for the Planeswalkers, only have 1 Planeswalker. And this is one of the finishers for the deck. This is the Vraska the Unseen. Her ultimate creates 3/1/1 black assassin creature tokens. And when they hit a player, that player loses the game. Great finisher. Things like Elish Norn and Craterhoof Behemoth are great with Vraska's ultimate. Ailey, Eternal Pilgrim, sacking a bunch of creatures, sacking them to her with their first and then second ability. You can just start vindicating things or whatever the exile target non-land permanent spell is. Sorry, I'm a bit sick. Mara Soul of the Accord. Really early game, just dropping her and swinging in. Gets 1/1 white soldier tokens with lifelink, which are great blockers against any crackbacks. You can get those tokens to stick around late game. They do absolutely great with Elishonor and Craterhoof Behemoth, gaining you a lot more life later on down the line. Anaphens are the foremost, because Graveyard Hate is important, and boosting up creatures that you attack with when she attacks is a great second ability that just works in this deck, and it's in the same colors, so she's in there. Slimefoot the Stowaway, another alternate win condition. Well, not alternate, but another way to win. Create a bunch of saprolings and then sack them all to Ghave or any other sack outlets, and you just drain your opponents. Audric Master Tactician, easy way to control blockers, tell creatures how to block or whether they actually do block or not. Amazing card in this deck. Gerard Golgari Lichlord. Very easy way to drain opponents with sacrificing creatures. Very fun. Plus, you're sacking a bunch of creatures. There are a lot of big targets in this deck. Elishonor and Craterhoof Behemoth, things like that. And Gerard just gets boosted up the more things. The more things that get killed off by my opponents, the more likely Gerard is going to give them a big problem. So, that's great. Trosnia, Celestnia's Voice, sorry. Very simple card, gains you a lot of life, and then Populate, one of the few instances of Populate in this deck. Very, very important card in the deck, very powerful, one of my favorites. Ravos Soul Tender, Flying Anthem, plus recursion, and there's not a lot of recursion in this deck, so Ravos is very important. Talsmere Wolfbane, it's Talsmere Wolfbane, man. This card is awesome, and if you're playing Ghave and not playing Talsmere Wolfbane, something wrong with you. Elishnorn, getting hard to read the cards' names. Elishnorn, staple in token decks, staple in Ghave decks. There's not much explanation for this. Mara Tandris, prevent all damage that would be dealt to creature tokens that I control. Somebody tries to bolt creature tokens, this deals with that. Somebody tries to Blasphemous Act. Amara will go away, but the creature tokens will be fine. Sorry. That's why she's there. Chorus of the Conclave. Late game, just pouring extra mana into creatures like Craterhoof Behemoth, Elishnorn, and there's another card that I have in here that has the Devour and makes a bunch of saproling. I'm drawing a blank on the name right now, but we'll see it later. Is amazing with this card. Mana Gorger Hydra. Sorry, we're out of the legendary creatures now into the normal creatures. Mana Gorger Hydra. This thing just steals games, because honestly people just won't stop playing spells. They have to play spells. That's how you win games. Corpse Jack Menace. Very easy way to double +1/+1 counters on things. Sigil Captain. Makes all... I randomly make a Saproling with Ghave out early game. The Saproling becomes a 3/3. Very fun guy right here. Creekwood Liege, another Anthem thing. So if I end up removing all the tokens for all the +1/+1 counters from Ghave, who I'm losing it, Ghave won't die, so very nice Anthem effect. Selenite Hermit, very fast way to make Saproling in this deck, plus a nice Saproling Anthem. Seraph of the Scales, nice flying blocker and sacrifice fodder when I need it, whenever I need it. Amazing card in the deck. You don't know how many times this card has saved me in Commander games. This is an amazing card to have in here. Juniper Order Ranger. Yes, it makes math hard, but it's very, very fun to just pile counters onto things and onto him. My Cloth, one of the all stars in this deck, just running gave out on turn 4 or 5, and making a Sapperling off of him the next turn, and then dropping Markloth, devouring that Sapperling, feels absolutely amazing every single time I've done it, and Mycloth's amazing. Also, that art, I just love this art. It's very hard to see, but the art on Mycloth is beautiful. Golgari Rotworm. This is how we get around moats if we don't draw any enchantment removal. Golgari Rotworm is tap a black, sacrifice a creature, target player loses 1 life. Very easy way to get around moats. Ghostly Prison, things like that. Vulture Zombie, don't have a lot of flyers. This is one of them. Hopefully, cards are going into our opponent's libraries, which means this thing will be getting bigger and bigger and harder to deal with every time they do that. But that's just something very easy to do, plus another place to move +1/+1 counters around. Ivory Tusk Fortress. So when I swing out with a team that has a bunch of +1/+1 counters on it, Ivory Fortress will make sure that I still have defenders next time the turn comes around. Very, very nice, being able to have extra defenders. Tendershoot Dryad. You don't really need to have the City's Blessing. We just want the Sapperling generation, and that's why Tendershoot Dryad's in here. Angelic Skirmisher. Another way to end games, giving creatures first strike, vigilance, or lifelink. I don't use first strike too much, but vigilance to not die on crackbacks and lifelink to not die on crackbacks is amazing with Angelic Skirmisher. Armada Worm. Creating a 5/5 green worm creature token with trample and then populating on that feels absolutely amazing. Plus it's an Armada Worm, man. You gotta love your mythic rares. Phyrexian Swarmlord. It's very hard to see, I'm just now realizing. Yep. Phyrexian won't fall away. Phyrexian Swarmlord, another way to win out the game is with Infect. This is the only instance of Infect in this deck. It's great. I've actually won a game with Phyrexian Swarmlord, and it feels great. Requiem Angel. It says non-spirits, not non-token, non-spirits. So whenever you're sacrificing Sapperling to Ghave to create +1/+1 counters, or to Mycloth to put +1/+1 counters on him, or anything like that, Requiem Angel is putting out 1/1 flying spirits. Plus, it's a flyer, and once again, this deck is very weak in the flying area, so this is a very, very important card. Butcher of Malakir. Very easy to board wipe the rest of the board without having to cast a board wipe, just sacrificing a bunch of creatures, which this deck is already doing a lot of. So this card is just straight value. Avenger of Zendikar is here because you can't run a token deck without Avenger of Zendikar. You can't run a commander deck in green that doesn't have Avenger of Zendikar. Verdant Force, because he just spits out Saproling every turn, and that's great. Craterhoof Behemoth, WinCon, staple in token decks and Ghave decks. This thing finishes games. There's always some story that someone in a playgroup has where they've Craterhoof Behemoth somebody for like 300, 400 damage in a single turn. Impervious Gateworm, because it feels great for somebody to board wipe and I can say, oh, well, I still have a 16/16 indestructible creature out. Amazing feeling when somebody Wrath of Gods or Day of Judgments, and I still have a 16/16 left. World Spine Worm, kind of my deterrent against mill decks. Not a very good deterrent, but deterrent nonetheless. Plus it creates... I can just play this, and what I really want to do is just sack it to get the 3 5/5 green worms, and then this thing gets shuffled back into my deck. And at some point, I'll be able to do it again down the line. Now we're into the enchantments. Enchantments are kind of the lifeblood in this deck outside of the creature tokens. So here we have Hardened Scales. Very nice way to buff up Ghave and other creatures like Markloth and things like that. Dawn of Hope. Very nice early game. It's a card draw engine, plus it creates life-linking blockers. Amazing feeling stopping an early game swing with a 1/1 and getting a life off of it, and then paying 2 and drawing a card from that block. Feels great every time. Necrogenesis. More graveyard hate, because sometimes you just can't get enough of that graveyard hate. Song of Freyalise, very nice ramp, plus very nice, if you get it late game, very, very nice way to end out a game, putting a +1/+1 counter on everything, and then giving them trample and indestructible. Vigilance I don't really care about, but I guess that's just in case if you can't kill somebody, they don't want you to die on the crackback. Ghostly Prison, don't have to explain this. This is an amazing card that's been dominating commander tables forever. Aura Shards, very easy way to get rid of artifacts and enchantments. And quite frankly, you're probably fine with this getting destroyed instead of any of your other enchantments. You probably want this destroyed more than anything else. And people are more likely to destroy an Aura Shards than anything else, because this is destroying their things. And it feels great when somebody destroys my Aura Shards instead of my Fecundity, which is another card draw engine. It helps other people, and I guess that's just an easy way to say, like, oh hey, I'm helping you draw cards, don't attack me. Growing Ranks, another example of Populate. Populate does wonders in this deck, plus I love the art to this card. Glare of Subdual. This card, great way to deal with blockers if you don't have an Audric out. This card is the way to go. Wilderness Reclamation. This is in here because I do not have a Vidalcan Orrery. Vidalcan Orreries are so expensive, and this is kind of like my budget replacement for it. Cathar's Crusade, because math wasn't hard enough for you in this deck. Privileged position, because yes, all your things need hexproof. Pollination Wing. This isn't a Voltron deck, but if you do want to win with commander damage, this is the way to do it. Give Ghave flying and just sack all your sapling to him to make him big and just swing in for games. Ethereal Absolution, another Anthem plus another debuff, plus more graveyard hate and creates flyers. Sandworm Convergence, another moat card, very expensive moat card. Plus it makes 5/5 green worms, and you can't say no to getting a 5/5 green worm every turn, because that just feels great. Artifacts, Soul Ring, Skull Clamp, because drawing 2 cards whenever you sack Sapperling feels great. Lightning Greaves, because having the protection on, say, Ghave or Markloth or Elish Norn feels great when people start throwing around removal. Ashnod's Altar, because, well, this practically goes into every commander deck, and quite frankly, if you had a card that said sacrifice a creature, and said nothing after it, it'd probably be the most broken card in all of Magic. Commander Sphere, extra card draw plus mana fixing. Trading Post, card draw, life gain, creating creatures, and artifact recursion, just in case anything gets blown up. Gilded Lotus, because you can't have enough ramp in Commander. Onto the instance, here's some combat trick. Druid's Deliverance, prevent all combat damage, so fog and then populate. Sundering Growth, basically naturalize, then populate. Rootborn Defense, creatures I control gain indestructible until end of turn, populate. Very good card. Advent of the Worm, sometimes you just have to make a 5/5 on turn 4. Sometimes that's all you need to do. Secure the Wastes, very fun thing to do before playing a Elish Norn or a Craterhoof Behemoth, is to just play Secure the Wastes for 6 or 7 and just have fun the next turn. Cultivate for the mana ramp. Fungal Sprouting, make Ghave really big, and then create a bunch of Sapperlings off of him. Feels great, always does. Primal Command, because the commands are great if you're not playing them. I don't know what you're doing. Camaraderie, life gain, card draw, very important. Plus, this is a way to end the game. Creatures control get +1/+1 till end of turn. Sometimes that's just the little boost that you need to finish players off. Whoop. And then, speaking of win conditions, this is the big one, Devout Invocation. I found this card watching the Command Zone podcast. Very amazing, very amazing. Somebody destroys your Craterhoof, or like counterspells your Craterhoof, kills off your Elish Norn, and you're just left with a bunch of 1/1 soldiers and Sapperling. This is an easy way to take games, is just make a bunch of 4/4 flyers. So you have 10 tokens out. Who's going to deal with 10 4/4 flyers in the late game? Everybody's wasted all their removal and board wipes. It's going to be hard to deal with 10, 15 4/4 flyers. Our Reckoning goes into almost every token deck, simply because it destroys all non-token creatures. So you can tap, Ghave. Basically what this does, it has Convoke, Basically what you do is you tap all your non-token creatures to cast this. Destroy all non-token creatures, and then you still have mana up to cast other things to help your token creatures. Dune Blast. Choose up to one creature, destroy the rest. Sometimes you just have to do that. Sometimes a Dune Blast is just what you need. And then finally, the last card, Storm Herd. Ramping out to this, or if it gets to be turn 10 or turn 9, and you have 10 mana, and this is in your hand, you just do it. You just do it, and you do your best to win the game next turn. If not, late game, this and Ailey. Ailey's going to be this card's best friend, and you need to make sure you have a high life total when you cast this card. Though, quite frankly, late game, people's life totals are going to be down. If you can get yourself up to 20 life and cast Storm Herd, that could win you the game. And that's